Welcome back, listeners, to Learning from Friends. I'm so glad that you are back here, ready to jump into part 2 of our 2-part series with Aidan Collins, where we are discussing the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Now, if you somehow have stumbled into part 2, go back and listen to the first part in order to get the, full experience of this series here. Now, I'm going to pause for a second because you need to go back and you need to hear what we discussed about in part 1, which was talking about his history of Yu-Gi-Oh!, how to read the cards, the number of cards that are available, and some of those, unique idiosyncrasies that make the game. So I'm going to wait here for a moment. We'll be here. See you in a moment. Okay, now that you're back and you've joined in, you're caught up with the group, you're ready to join in here with part 2. So in this episode, we're going to discuss Aidan's accolades, his sponsorship, tournament play, and which ranges from the etiquette to the styles he plays to setting up his decks, and ultimately, how he reads the psychology of the game. Because as we all know, whenever we're playing a game, there's always going to be some psychology to make you a great player. So I hope that you have enjoyed the previous episode and that you are back and ready for the episode 2. But before we do that, you all know it's time for that quote of the day. This time, it's going to be my nephew. He's going to give us some great knowledge, some words of wisdom from my good old friend, Dr. Seuss. So nephew, take it away.
You have brains in your head. You have feet in your shoes. You can steer yourself any direction you choose. Dr. Seuss.
Awesome. Great words to bring a smile to my face and joy to my heart. Thanks, nephew, for sharing that quote with us. With that, I think it's time that we dive back into this conversation.
You have all these accolades, all this stuff that you've done over the years.
Yes.
Since you've been playing. What are some of these accolades?
So there's a couple. I've been to about 9 different regionals. I've topped 2 of them, which topping just means like getting a top percentage in that regional. I'll go over this more in depth later when we talk about, tournament
Play itself.
Yeah. But basically what that means is most commonly getting either a top 32 finish at these regionals or getting a top 16 finish at these regionals.
Okay.
Very rarely for 16, most commonly for 32. Sometimes you'll see top 48 in regionals, but that's only with like very big attendances.
Yeah.
One of the regionals I did top was a top 48 regional top, which was the first one I topped, which was in Duluth, Georgia. I got 15th place out of 467 players attending that event.
Nice.
I know, right?
Congratulations. That's
Thank
awesome.
you. My second regional top was in October of last year. I'm sorry, the Duluth regional was February of 2023.
Okay.
And then my most recent one, which was in October, which was the last regional I had went to before the 2023 season ended. But it was in Greenville, South Carolina. And I had placed, I think, 17th at that event, which featured, I think, 385 at round 1.
Man.
So
that is skill right there, man.
And it was
skill.
Sort of this poetic justice of my last round. It was round 9. So we've been playing about, 10 hours of Yu-Gi-Oh! So far.
All in one day? Or is this spread out over
No,
multiple
this is
days?
all in one day.
Okay.
This is all one day. We start at 10 o'clock and we just go.
Ride it, baby. Ride it.
It's rough. We're all tired. We're all tough. And I had to play against the deck that I had topped the last event back in February with. And this is the round that determined whether I topped that event or not.
Yeah.
Because I was already like a couple losses in. Another loss sort of guarantees that I don't get the Nationals invite.
Mm-hmm.
Which, in a minute.
We're going to get there.
Yeah, we're almost there.
We're going to break into it of the national ranking here.
It's a small tangent. But, I needed to beat the deck that I played to a top 15 finish in February,
yeah,
which I did. So it kind of worked out. I've been to Nats only for 2023 because it was the only season I got the invitation for, and it was the only one I've been playing to attend.
Gotcha.
I've been playing since around March of 2022. I didn't play in my first tournament until about April or May.
So you've only been in this now for like playing competitively like this for, we'll say, a year and a half. A year and a half, 2 years.
Yeah.
Kind of range.
Yeah.
Just walking in and jumping to nationals. What can I say?
It's fine. It's fine.
Prodigy child here.
No. But I've attended, I think, 3 YCSs, and YCS just stands for Yu-Gi-Oh! Championship Series. These events aren't invitational, so anyone can join in, play their deck or, try and top or just sort of have a good time.
Okay.
I've been to 3 of those, and they're the bigger events at Yu-Gi-Oh! You sort of have this weird, really big jump between the regionals and the YCSs, to where regionals usually have about like a max of like 450 to like about like, I've seen a regional as small as like 200.
Okay.
Which is still a lot.
It's still a lot of players, but still.
It depends on where it is exactly you go and stuff like that.
Yeah. Access by travel is a huge thing.
Correct.
Access by travel. Wow, great words.
Correct.
Access to be able to travel to get to it. There we go. Okay, Cade, you'll get there.
Yeah, so those are sort of the range you'll see in regionals. In YCSs, it averages about like 2,000 to 3,000 players.
Holy moly.
So
now when they do regionals saying like this, are you looking at like, okay, southeast, northwest, things like that?
Regionals will sort of be generalized in an area.
Okay.
There was a regional back in February of 2023, or I'm sorry, a YCS in February of 2023 that I attended in Las Vegas.
Ooh.
And they'll sort of like monetize like, oh, it's the Las Vegas YCS or like the Raleigh National or like stuff like that. But I've been to 2 regular YCSs. One was in Richmond and one was in Las Vegas.
Nice.
And the Las Vegas one was really unique because it was a 3v3, meaning you had 2 other players on either side of you.
Okay.
You played out your game, and it was a best of 3 out of the players. So if I won my match and my buddy wins his match, no matter what happens with the third, our team wins.
Yeah.
And you're
so this is team-based
at
this point. 3v3.
Yes.
Gotcha.
So you're scored as a team, and you sort of go up the ranks by your team's win-loss.
Oh.
And this sort of eliminates also the issues of drawing. Like, now Yu-Gi-Oh! Follows that end-of-phase procedure that I was talking about earlier, where like, if you both have 8,000 life points by the end of the phase, you just draw, which becomes complicated from not only like a tournament perspective, but also like a scoring perspective. Like, who likes drawing? I don't. I like winning or losing.
You don't want to have the mystery. You just want to dominate.
I just want to win. Not always, but most times I do.
If you're playing to win. Yeah, at this point.
In those
competition.
Events.
In competition.
Yeah.
Not like in real life, kind of sometimes you want to let, somebody win is to
I want to have
them
fun playing this game too.
Yeah. I'm having that issue with bowling sometimes. Like, I can go out and bowl for fun and just hang out. I don't have to like try to bowl at 300 every time.
Yeah, it's like, all right. Oh God, I wish I could bowl 300.
I've done it once.
Wow.
Finally did it.
Ugh.
Monkey up the back.
Nicely done.
But once. I'll never probably ever do it again. But
you got
happened.
You got it. I believe in you.
Hey, I'm glad someone does.
Believe in the me that believes in you.
There we go. Inner Aiden.
Yeah. Ethereal Aiden guiding your bowling.
Staring in the background like massaging the shoulders.
You got this, man. I believe in you. I believe in you.
What's behind you? I don't know.
Chills, man.
Chills.
But yeah, I've been to the 3 YCS or the 2 YCSs in the Nationals, which is also considered a YCS.
Mm-hmm.
The Nationals it is an invitational, so you have to have a regional top to be able to go to Nationals for that year. You can play in side events even if you don't have a Nationals invite.
Okay.
But, most times than not, people are just there to go to Nationals and
fair
to try and be the national champion.
Well, it's the goal if you're going to Nationals.
100%. Yeah. If you top 4 the Nationals, you get to go to Yu-Gi-Oh! Worlds, which Worlds was held this year in Japan.
Nice.
So they flew out those guys. They got to play. NA ended up taking that event. So North America is currently the premier place to play Yu-Gi-Oh!
Nice.
Mm-hmm. People will have better accolades than me, 100%.
But still, being able to say that you are nationally like ranked is That's
It's pretty
special.
cool. It's
That is
pretty
very
cool.
special, especially only been in it for like 2 years.
Yeah.
I was like, that's impressive.
Yeah. And I try and like, oh, let's go to this regional so you can come with me to Nats. Because the way that the Nats schedule works out is that Nats is always like kind of in the summer.
Okay.
So it's in like the middle of the year. So perfect example of this, I got my nationals top in February of 2023.
Okay.
So I was able to go to the 2023 nationals. But I also got a regional top in October of 2023.
So it carried over.
So it carries over to 2024. So I already have my nationals invite for 2024. Which is really, really cool. So I get to go to nationals again if I have the ability to.
You'll get there.
Hopefully. It's more a money thing.
Yeah, money's always a huge thing. But you're technically sponsored.
I'm technically
Does
sponsored.
that help by any means? And who are you sponsored by?
Kind of. So the card shop that I represent, which is Hawksnest Gaming, is sponsored by Dragon Shield, which is like, if you're in the card game space, you sort of know these guys. They just make the sleeves that go on your cards. A lot of players use Dragon Shields. They're really good quality. I like putting Dragon Shields on my extra deck sleeves. They make these really nice outer extra deck sleeves that are really, really nice. I really like them also on my Magic cards. The once in a blue moon I play Magic.
You gotta have other stuff that you can enjoy playing.
I know. The like once every like 2 months I can tear myself away from normal summoning a monster. But yeah, it's really nice. Whenever I go to an event that means regional, YCS, nationals, I get free sleeves from Hawk's Nest.
Nice.
So I don't have to like, it's not a lot, right? But it does sort of save me like the $20 to $30 I have to spend in sleeves for like new events.
You can now do that for cards. Save your money elsewhere.
Yep.
By save, I mean spend.
I'm going to say save your money.
Fair play. Fair play.
But like it also protects the cards, not only because like if you play a beat up card in a competitive event, sometimes it will have a warp, which just means the card is bent in some way, or it'll have some sort of defect that makes it identifiable in the deck.
Oh, so they'll say, hey, nope. You got to pull that out.
So sometimes judges will pull you aside for these random deck checks. And I almost got dinged at a regional I played in Bainbridge for having a warped card that was identifiable in the deck. Obviously, I didn't mean for it to be identifiable.
Yeah.
I had a different copy of the card. I swapped it back in. They said, it's a warning. Don't worry about it. But like you can get game losses, match losses, or just be asked to leave the venue if these judge calls
smart
get out of hand.
To your advantage.
And like you won't get... For clarity, you won't get like kicked out for like, oops, I shuffled your deck 14 times and I found one card every hand.
Yeah.
Sometimes you will. If it's a marked card, sometimes that differs. But like usually you only get like kicked out if like you've been causing problems all day. You've been not the most courteous Yu-Gi-Oh player ever made, or rather, ever to play. I guess.
There you go.
But there have been certain
always
times
circumstances
where someone
that
is
appear.
very quietly escorted from the venue during a round, and it's scary in a way, but
it's good to have that eye there so you're not corrupting the game.
100%. Like you
need that.
We didn't want these players in the room to begin with. Sometimes also band players will also sneak into some events. This has happened a couple times at Raleigh. There was a big thing where someone tried to try and sneak in and play in the main event when they weren't supposed to. Yeah.
There's always going to be that one person, man.
Yeah.
Or
but
multiple. Who knows?
Yeah, it worked out. It's all okay. But it was weird. There also is like a whole stipulation with band players is that local OTSs or official tournament stores can't accept these band players into official tournaments. Otherwise, they risk losing their OTS status.
Oh,
so
smart.
if they let band players play in their tournaments, they will be stripped of all OTS privileges, which means like they won't be findable on the Konami page, which most OTSs are. They won't be shipped any OTS packs, which are awarded to game stores to be able to give as entry packs.
Yeah.
And OTSs are really, really nice. They give cool reprints to old cards, good reprints to cards that maybe needed a cooler rarity. Like sometimes they're printed in like a super rare or an ultimate rare, which has this like holographic like texturing on it.
Okay.
So it's very detailed, very, very pretty. And ultimate rares go for a lot.
Complete that.
for a lot of money. Especially old OTS packs, especially like going back into like 2010 territory, you will find a lot of expensive Yu-Gi-Oh cards. But yeah, that's sort of all I've done in the regional tournament department.
So like, who was the guy that drug you into playing these things? That's a bad phrasing. Who's the guy who got you to start playing?
Aiden, who forced you? I just want to know. Nothing bad is going to happen.
Yeah, I was like,
it was my buddies Logan Miller and Joey Hilberg, actually.
Okay.
So I wasn't like super big into playing anything other than the locals, which is like maybe 10 to 24 people maximum. They fire like every Fridays or like weekends or stuff like that. And I was perfectly content just being like, yay, look at my little deck. And yay, I went, 2-2 tonight because we played 4 rounds. Yippee. And like that is, it's really nice. I love playing at my locals.
You got to support the local crew and it gets everybody excited for it.
1000%. But, they were like, oh, we're going to this regional. We want you to come with. We're going to like make a whole trip out of it. And I'm like, yeah, I'll come on a trip. And like that regional stunk. But the trip was really cool. And I sort of got addicted to this feeling of like, oh, these are trips I can take with my friends.
Yeah,
and like
bonding experience.
Yeah, we can just play some Yu-Gi-Oh on the side. And that's, again, one of those motivators that keeps me going. Is not only a game that I enjoy playing, but it's also a game of like, I enjoy playing with my friends. And I enjoy playing and traveling to these places with. It's a really good excuse to travel. Like
I don't blame you.
I was never going to Las Vegas all of a sudden you have an excuse. Yeah, so I'm like, yes. And so there's
hey Katie.
Hi, Katie. And there's currently another 3v3 going on this year. I think also in February.
So are these your 2 partners though? Or do you have different people that you're kind of like?
It was.
You said 3-on-3 so I'm like, wait a second. Are these your 2 guys? Or do you have
one guys? Of them was. Okay. Logan was my guy on the left. And I was actually one of the right-hand guy. So I was like all the way like, I was in my little distant planet with just Logan. So Ethan, my buddy Ethan Crow, was all the way on the left. He also is why I continue to play this game. That dude's awesome. But like, yeah, Logan Miller and Joey are the 2 knuckleheads that got me into this.
You gotta love it. Someone drags you along, and the next thing you know, here you are.
Yeah, great. Like, Aiden, we went out to pizza. What's wrong with you? It's like, well, I just want to play Yu-Gi-Oh now. It's like, ugh.
The gateway drug. Like pizza.
It's the gateway drug.
Oh man.
Like so Midnight Hotel Papa
John's pizza. Oh man. I love the garlic sauce and the crazy bread that you can kind of get for it. Oh. Cheesy bread, not garlic bread. I mean, not crazy bread. Crazy bread is Little Caesars.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Man, now I'm gonna losing my pizza my pizza brands here.
No, come on.
Now, the game as it continues to evolve.
Yes.
And technically you're only 2 years into this playing. How do you keep up and continue staying competitive? Like,
so Yu-Gi-Oh knowledge as a whole is at an all-time high. Mm-hmm. A lot of the professional players that I was saying earlier, players like Jesse Cotton, Joshua Schmidt, Pack, all these players have content platforms, YouTube's, Twitch streams, like places where you can see the best players in North America play Yu-Gi-Oh. And you can glean so much off of that, and not only like pick up on, what are they doing differently that I'm not, but also this feeling of, like, what are their choices to play for this format? What do they feel is important to consider when playing against decks that I'm having issue with?
Mm-hmm.
What can I change that will put me further and further closer to these
megastars,
master class world players?
Yeah, you learn from the best. That's the key thing. You got to learn from the best.
And just playing your cards. It is consistent practice that really keeps you in there.
Yeah, repetition.
100%. And like, it takes a while to get used to a new deck. Mm-hmm. And if you have to play a new deck because of like a ban list, or because maybe it's not, if you care about the metagame, which most competitive players do, like maybe this deck got hit, maybe because of the way the decks have shifted in the top couple of positions, maybe this deck isn't sort of as favored as it used to be.
Okay.
So maybe I want to pick up a new deck. Well, picking up a new deck takes probably maybe on average, maybe like a week or 2 to even get used to.
Wow.
And figure out those like little intricacies against those top decks is also like an art of its own. like little tiny interactions that make the matchup either like really one-sided or extremely competitive when it comes to just that match. So just consistent practice and consistently using your resources to be able to find these players that are like leagues above me.
Yeah.
Leagues and leagues and leagues above me.
And that goes a long way. Got to learn from the masters. Got to be able to find who's knowledgeable, who's not, and finding what you need from them in order to be able to grow.
Yep.
So we've mentioned a little bit about the tournaments and stuff.
Yes.
How in the world does a tournament work?
So if we're talking just like at a local level, it's pretty simple. All you got to do, find an OTS. You can find them either by Googling card shops near me. You can find them using like the Konami OTS finder. I believe that is something that they still do on their site. You can sort of input your zip code and they'll find game shops around you that are OTS certified. But, you know, they will always be a way to find an OTS around you. And all you need to do is figure out when they're playing these Yu-Gi-Oh events, show up the day of, be like, you know, not even like the day of, just like the hour of, right? And then just like, hey, I want to play tonight's Yu-Gi-Oh event. Okay, cool. And, you know, you're going to be out until like maybe 9 o'clock at night. Because most of these events fire at like 7-ish o'clock, maybe 6 o'clock. But, you know, you'll play a couple rounds, you'll go home, have a great weekend. These regional events are a bit bigger.
And we have the 200, 300 people plus they're coming in.
Yes.
And that takes a while.
So regional events off the Konami website, you can register early, but a part of registering is that you need to register a valid competitive deck list. You need to write out all the cards that are in your deck list. So
that takes time.
Yes. If you are randomly deck checked, the judges can basically glean, hey, are you cheating?
Makes sense.
Yeah. Like, are you hiding cards in your deck box that like you're actually siding in instead of like having only 15 cards in your side deck? Or like, are you switching out cards in your side deck to favor your matchup against this deck more favorably? You know, even though, you know, maybe you're only playing those cards in the side and not the main. So you take game one early, or you've done some sort of foul play. You know, they just like, the deck list is important for a lot of different reasons. It also like filters out if you're playing a banned card or not.
That's very important.
Yeah.
Again, it's rules. This is kind of just have in place.
Yeah.
Because you don't have rules, you have chaos. And sometimes chaos can be good, but most of the time, if you're doing a tournament, you kind of need to have some of that in place.
Yeah. So with regionals, you can register up to a day early.
Okay.
Usually what I do for regionals, I register or pre-register the night of. There is an option for in-person registering, but that line is so long most of the time.
I bet.
But basically, you get there at the regional, either you've registered already, so you go through the pre-register line. All the pre-register line is, here are your entry packs, and just marking off that you're here. Because you need to filter out the people who like pre-registered and also
didn't show up. And,
The register line needs like a valid ID, your deck list, and also payment. Payment for these events are around $15.
15?
15. And that's a whole day of Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty nice. That doesn't count any side events that fire during that. Side events have their own, like, you know, it's also $15 to get into like these Winnamats or the Time Wizard format tournaments I was talking about earlier.
Yeah.
You know, just to play in the main regional, it's $15. Mostly, I was talking more so about round count earlier when I was talking about my regional tops.
Yes.
Rounds are determined by how many people just show up to the event. And they're also calculated in a way that there will be one winner by the end of the rounds. So if a player goes undefeated during the course of these rounds, he will be the winner. Most of the time, this is not always the case, because sometimes there are draws that mess up that math. There are losses that aren't accounted for. Because of the way that the ranking system is poised in these tournaments, stuff just gets more complicated as you get to those higher positions. So most of the regionals I've played in have always been 9 rounds.
Okay.
Each round is 45 minutes each. That's a new thing that they introduced since, I believe, YCS Niagara, which was about a year and a half ago, maybe. Something like that.
We'll go with that.
Yeah.
I'll allow it.
I can't remember. I'll allow it. Oh, thank you.
I can keep up with other dates. Time flies. You know, before COVID, post COVID. It's like, But yes, and I hear you.
Yeah, they used to be 40 minutes each, but because of the way that the format was shifting out, players just needed more time.
Yeah.
And because of the way that makes the tournament math weird, it sort of discourages that you get draws anyways. So, sometimes players will roll for their draws, which isn't Konami sanctioned. You're not allowed to do that.
Huh.
So what'll happen, like sometimes you'll see it in locals, is like, I don't want to draw and you don't want to draw. Or it's like a pack per win kind of night.
Yeah.
Where it's like, we don't get a pack for drawing, so they have to make us roll it. So there is a loser and a winner. Because you can't give half a pack to someone,
Come on, man. Why not? Get a knife. Cut it in half. Here you go.
No, please.
You get 2, I get 2.
Do you have the other half of my elemental hero Stratos?
No.
Duct tape, man. Or regular tape. Make this happen.
Terrible.
Why not?
It's got to be playable, man.
Yeah, okay, fair play. Because there'd be a marked card. You got me. You got
it's
me.
identifiable in the deck, Cade. You can't play it.
This is why I wouldn't last in a tournament.
Judge.
Hey.
That one. You need
That guy.
one.
That guy.
So, yeah, that's pretty much the way that each round individually works.
Okay.
What this means for a longer regional, I've seen regionals go from like 7 to 9 rounds. I've only had one be 7. Most of them have been 9. But that means about 10 hours of Yu-Gi-Oh! The way the match shakes out again is like, it's 45 minutes, so really quick math here. So 2 rounds is 1 hour and 30, 4 rounds is 3 hours, 6 rounds is 6 hours, and 7 rounds would be
shouldn't about 10 rounds total.
So
10 rounds.
And there's also like space in between the rounds because there has to be like a tally. There has to be each match has to be individually logged inside of the tournament software because there isn't a way to yet for North American players to use Konami sanctioned apps to be able to record their tournament progress automatically or virtually or digitally. So it just becomes time consuming. And when you're playing in a 10 o'clock to like sometimes 10 o'clock at night tournament, that stuff adds up. If every round you are taking 15 minutes in between and logging all of these match slips, it's 1 hour per round, which also means that it's 9 hours of Yu-Gi-Oh! Not counting if anything goes wrong, if any players go into overtime, if any end of phase procedures drag out. Sometimes it could lead to like 5 or 10 minutes added on to these rounds.
Oh, wow.
Just completely naturally.
Yeah.
So it just becomes hard from a time perspective.
That's exhausting because you're just finishing up one match, so now you're having to go back to, okay, I need to reset my mind. I need to figure out like a little bit of what's happening that's going on. Yes. Ooh, I can imagine.
And also depending on who hosts these events, they can just go for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Like I went to one in Bainbridge, like I had alluded to it earlier, and it just took a long time for them to get set up, which is completely normal. I've had a lot of regionals go like that. But like, it's also this feeling of we should be playing by now.
Yeah.
We should be done with round 1 by now. We should be done with round 2 by now. And like having to go through a tournament with like 2 less hours, you're ending up like having to leave the venue at,
some crazy late hour. Nothing's open. You can't go eat. You usually get lunch breaks in between some of these regionals. Nice. Duluth had one. Greenville did not have a lunch break. Usually they do, but it was, I think, circumstantial. That they just... I can imagine. I would be so hangry if I had not ate.
Oh, you get that way. It is so painful if you don't have a lunch break. You have to like hope... This sounds bad of me to say, but you have to hope that one of your friends does really, really bad so they can, at a decent hour, run out and go get food.
Wow.
Like,
I need you to sacrifice it for the good of the group.
Legitimately, what I did at Nationals, I dropped at like round 6 and then had to go get everyone else food and then proceeded to have the worst customer experience I've ever had. Ever. It was so terrible. But... we got food at the end of the day.
Hey, so it all works out. Everybody survives.
It was all fine.
Everybody survives.
But these regionals just go for a really long time. And sort of 15 minutes sometimes is a overestimation of how long these events have in like dead time in between rounds when you're not playing. And sometimes it's
completely reasonable or even an understatement on how long sometimes they can feel in between rounds. Consistently, you're getting out at around 10:30-ish. So it's a healthy 12 and a half hours of Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yeah, I don't know if I can handle that. I think after 6 to 8 would be kind of my number.
Yeah, it's a commitment for sure.
but that's a good thing though. If you love what you're doing and being able to get out there and play it, that's a phenomenal time. That's the point of the hobby, the joy, the passion for it, to get in to be able to do that.
100%.
Now, whenever you're saying earlier, we talked about you're on the field, you're playing. What consists of a duel field? How does it work?
So Yu-Gi-Oh's playing field is unique in the fact that it has specific zones cards go into. Okay. These zones do come up in gameplay. You have, if you're looking straight down at it, you have 5 main monster zones, which means you have 5 different places to place your either normal or special summon monsters. You have an extra monster zone, which is located to the left and to the right of the middle of the table, which is above your second main monster zone and your 4th main monster zone.
Okay.
You also have 5 spell and trap card zones, pretty much right below the main monster zones.
Okay.
They're just right below it. The extra monster zone is used for extra deck monsters. Some monsters can choose whether to enter in the extra monster zone or in the main monster zone. Link monsters have to be in the extra monster zone.
Gotcha.
They have to be in the extra monster zone. A link monster can also be summoned to a main monster zone that another link summon monster points to, which is hard to communicate if you don't have a card right in front of you.
Yeah.
But the cards have arrows on them that point to different
to where they're going. Okay.
Yes.
Well, that's
which
good.
Which is where link points come from. I probably should have said that earlier. It's fine.
Dude, there's so much that's here and there for
yeah, I'm when you're trying to cover all this stuff into your head. It's a lot, but yeah, link monsters are supposed to point at main monster zones. Other link monsters can be summoned to points. That's about it. Every other extra monster, or every single other monster in the extra deck can be summoned to any zone they like. You can't occupy your opponent's extra monster zone if you already occupy your own.
Okay.
There are specific circumstances that you can do that, but they're extremely few and far between.
Okay.
Not super worth talking about. Just know, on a regular, game by game basis, if you put one of your link monsters in the extra monster zone, you cannot occupy the other one. That's about it. You have a field card zone, which is above your extra deck, next to your leftmost main monster zone. It's just where field spells are played.
Gotcha.
They're a type of spell card. They just get their own zone. That's about it. They have different effects based on maybe how long they're on the field, or maybe they search a card of their archetype from deck to hand. A lot of different strategies also benefit greatly off of their off of their field zone, just to sort of maybe add variety to the decks, or maybe just to add, just a little bit of what the deck was missing. Just to give it a field card.
Some flair.
Why not? One of my favorite field spell cards is a card named Plunder Patrol Ship Yard, with 3 R's.
Yard. Okay, that's
Yard. And the Plunder Patrols are these groups of troll pirates. So they live in the shipyard, and they make the extra deck monsters are all the captain and his ships.
Cool.
So you combine the little pirates to make the ships who have different effects on field. And some of the main monsters in the main deck equipped themselves onto the ships, basically acting as their crew.
That's fun. So I like that.
Yeah.
That's cool. Because again, it's carrying forward.
Yeah. It's a lot of decks like that will have this theme and then execute it really, really well. And I really love it when decks execute their themes really well. Plunder Patrol is one of those. Sky Striker is one of those, etc. That's about it. Field wise, there is a graveyard that's located above and to the right of your rightmost main monster zone. That's your graveyard.
Okay.
It's just where spell cards that have been activated go to the graveyard. If something's destroyed, it goes to the graveyard. If something is sent to the graveyard, it's sent to the graveyard.
If something is tributed, it goes to the graveyard. Unless a card says otherwise, or maybe a card has an alternate summoning condition where it has to banish something else in the field, it goes to the banish zone, which is usually above the graveyard.
Banish means it can no longer come back, but graveyard, it can still sort of be able to come back.
Pretty much, yes.
Okay.
Pretty much.
If
it's in the banish zone, probably not seeing it again.
Gotcha.
Some cards interact with the banish zone, not many.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Hey, you get each thing has its own little thing for it.
Yep.
Now, when you're playing in a tournament, there's always going to be some basic etiquettes, but what is considered etiquette for you?
So, basic etiquette is more so just being kind and considerate to your opponent, especially in those longer tournament settings where like you've probably had to sit across from this dude who hasn't showered, who is like the worst person to interact with ever, who isn't listening, isn't being super sportsmanship like, is just sort of doing his own thing, which sucks to play against.
Yeah, I can believe that.
Or people who try and rule shark you, which just means being like really attentive to the little details to an extreme degree. Of like, oh, you can't place they'll call the judge for exaggerated reasons, basically.
Delay the game, change the game, and
yeah.
Try to get you to just basically get annoyed.
Yes, waste time, stuff like that. But more so the time, it's just be kind and considerate. Like, I always ask my opponents how their day's going. How's your day going? How you feeling? What's your record so far? What are you playing? Like just like the little
good
things.
Conversation.
Yeah. I had an extremely nice conversation with someone from Greenville when I topped that event. It was a lovely guy, lovely guy. But yeah, just like it's just the little things. It's just the little things. Be kind, be considerate. When you activate your cards, ask your opponent, do you have a response? Would you like to activate anything here? Sometimes in a raw competitive environment, I won't do that. I'll just ask, is that okay? I won't ask you, is there anything you might want to activate? Wink, wink, wink.
You're not going to guide them.
Yeah, I'm not going to. Sometimes at locals, if it's like a newer player, I'll also do
you
that.
want to be able to assist them, to encourage them.
I want you to interact with me.
Yeah.
Please let me have this game of Yu-Gi-Oh! But sometimes also it's just being like, there is also the meme of Yu-Gi-Oh! Players being unwashed or like the smelliest card game community. It's gross, and it's unfortunately partially true. There have been a lot of regionals I've been to that have not had great ventilation.
Ooh.
Yeah, and it just kind of stinks because it's a bunch of sweaty guys and they've been in there for 12 hours.
This is true.
So like, and there's a lot of people. So like, there's just a lot of body heat. It's really hot.
Naturally. And then with your pressure going on you start to sweat, and that adds
so
up.
it's just a lot. So I always keep deodorant on me when I go to those events.
Smart.
Yeah, but just like not being on your phone also is a big one. That's more so honestly for like local stuff. If like I didn't open any interaction for you, man, I'm really sorry. I'm just gonna scroll on my phone. Like that's rude. True. I hate to say it. That's a bit rude.
I don't blame you.
Like, even if it's a combo you've seen 14 million times, if they do something different, they're not obliged to tell you. If you're not paying attention, you'll miss it.
That's fair. Little intricacies. Yep.
Yeah. So it's like, maybe they add a different card that you don't like expect. Maybe they have something in hand that you wouldn't expect, and they show it to you, but you're not paying attention.
But you're not paying attention to actually understand it.
Yes.
Fair.
Yes. Like, be kind, be present, don't be on your phone. That's about it.
I agree with that. Do that in your normal life too, guys.
True.
Listen back, do this in your normal life. All my students in the classroom that pull out their phones while in the middle of a lecture or the middle of a stuff, come on. Come back to us.
As long as you're looking at Yu-Gi-Oh cards, you can have your phone out.
Don't quote him on that. Aidan cannot give you that.
Someone needs to research a new archetype today, and then you can leave class.
Maybe one day I'll provide that. Don't count on it, class. If you're listening, student, don't ever count on that. Not going to happen. So with you, we've talked about these different decks and stuff that's here. Whenever you're going into a tournament, how many cards are there in a player's deck?
So your main deck is consistently between 40 and 60 cards. It used to not be like that. Back in GOAT format, there was a player and players who had brought basically I think 200 card deck, or like something really, really outlandish. And basically the goal of it was to take so long shuffling the deck that they couldn't lose.
because you have to completely shuffle your deck before you lay it in front of your opponent to cut, which just means they like can shuffle it themselves, or they may cut it in half.
Yeah.
Just a minor thing when you're starting a game of Yu-Gi-Oh! But most of the time, you won't. They had to put in a rule that was basically like, no,
you can't do this big.
You
Too much.
It can't be this much, dude. So decks are now limited to max 60 cards, at a minimum 40 cards. Most competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! Lists will be either at those two values, just because of the way the card math works out.
Okay.
What probability are you to see your main starters in a deck of 60 cards? How probable are you to see your starters in a deck of 40 cards? How much, how many hand traps can you run to interact with your opponents if you don't get your deck started? Like how much can you interact with your opponent if they interact with you is sort of like the balance with what you have to have. Your extra deck and side deck both can be anywhere from 0 to 15 cards. Your side deck is just, I haven't super touched on it, but your side deck is just to complement your main deck. If you take a card out of your side to put in your main deck, you must also take a card out of your main deck and vice versa.
To be able to put it back.
Yes. Yeah. You're only able to side after game 1. So game 1 is always an unsided game of Yu-Gi-Oh! After games 2 and 3, or after games 1 and 2, you'll have an ability to side before you start the next game. What this means is basically what threats like your main deck can't dispose of already. Maybe you have a deck that says, I like destroying cards in the field. And maybe your opponent's deck says, I really like it when you destroy my cards. Please destroy my cards.
Please do it. Yeah.
Please do it, actually.
Please do. This works so much better.
Maybe you have to take out all your destruction cards for like send to graveyard cards or tribute cards or like banish cards or stuff like that. You'll see that like pretty commonly in sideboards. Just cards that interact with your opponent on a different axis or a detrimental axis to your opponent.
Okay.
More so ensuring that you'll win. That's about it. Extra decks can be anything you want. Only Fusion, Xyz, Synchro, Link monsters can be in your extra deck. I think I got all of them. Yes, I got all of them. So, you can't put like a main deck effect monster inside your extra deck because it would do nothing. But all the rituals and the pendulums go in your main deck, unless it's a pendulum Xyz monster, in which it goes in your extra.
Gotcha.
That's pretty much the long and short of it. Yeah, it's pretty funny when someone like concocts this big pile 60 card deck and you're like, oh no, it has 15 starters and it has all this great stuff about it and you can play for ages and it's great, and you sit down and play against them and it's like, well, you've drawn none of them.
This did not work to your favor.
I don't think
the more cards you have, the less likely you're going to be able to get what you're looking for.
And Yu-Gi-Oh! Is shockingly a game of probability.
Yeah.
Shockingly.
That's a good thing to keep it, kind of surprising.
At pretty much any point where a game gets to a turn 3, I am always judging on how many live draws I have in my deck, which means what are the odds that I don't draw a hand trap based on how many hand traps I've played, seen, that I know of are in the deck, or that I know engine cards that can get me to where I want to go in a turn.
Gotcha. Hey.
So it's constantly a game of numbers.
You haven't think that number out. That's a good thing.
It's constantly being aware of what you can do and what draws get you there.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's the sign of a great player there, to think through the process. It's like with chess, you got to think 2 or 3 moves ahead, and if you're not, then what are you doing?
Yeah,
kind of that range.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier that there are some banned cards, like the 12,000 plus cards here.
Yes.
Roughly how many banned cards are there?
So currently on the ban list, cards that are not available in any capacity for tournament play are 106 cards. There are 81 on the limited list, which means you can only play 1 of this card in your deck.
Okay.
And on the semi-limited list means that you can have 2 cards of it in your deck. There are only 7, which is a combined 196 cards.
That's still like only, I'm going to screw my math up on this. Okay, 100,000. So it's like 1/100th, kind of percentage, 1%. Oh, that's not bad.
Yeah,
it's not bad looking at it.
It's not so bad. It's about 1. I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, like 1 in every 100 cards are somehow going to be messed up.
Yeah, they're kind of going to be somehow restricted in any way,
some way, form, or fashion.
Yes.
Now, when you're how do you lay out your main, your extra decks before going into tournament? How do you set up your deck, what you're taking with you? Because I heard a horror story that you went to one of your regionals or event and totally left one of your decks behind.
Oh no, yeah. So, so Raleigh was a difficult tournament for me. We had basically spent too long that night preparing for the tournament, so no one really got quality sleep. So we all kind of slept through our alarms, which means I was rushing. I was the first one awake, so I was rushing through the house trying to get everyone up and everyone moving so we could go to this event. And we barely made round one, but at the cost of me forgetting my entire deck at the Airbnb in which we were staying. And that was at the Richmond YCS. So I played a bunch of side events with my buddies' decks, but I was not eligible to play in that main event, which was fine. It was okay.
Yeah, but it still stinks after traveling that far and putting that in place. You're like,
it was a whole day of driving, and you're like, well,
well, that's now out the window.
But it was more so back to the question. It is format dependent. It's basically what decks are dominating, what decks can I prepare for, especially in the side deck, most importantly. That's a lie. The main deck, most importantly. But whatever you want to play in your main deck has to be covered in your side deck.
Okay.
In formats where there is one dominant deck, most of the time your main deck is going to be kitted out to face that deck, and your side deck will have matchups that maybe don't cover specifically that main deck. Maybe it's like, I don't really know what I'll see, so I'll put this card in here just as sort of general shenanigans that may afoot.
Okay. I like the word shenanigans.
It's one of my favorites. Or maybe maybe I'll put this card in just so I can deal with maybe this one deck that maybe in testing came up that went really bad for me.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff like that. It also covers a deck of choice, which I was alluding to earlier with sort of the masterclass players of what is the deck to bring right now? What can I eliminate? If I'm not playing that deck, how can I prepare for it? If I am playing that deck, how can I prepare for games 2 and 3 playing against my opponent's sideboard of what they're preparing to play against me after I win or lose that first game?
Okay.
And how can I bolster my defenses not only against their deck, but also against the more generic cards that make my strategy worse?
Smart. Yeah, it's again all strategy based to be able to pull out, to be able to make sure that you can have the right deck. And if you leave it behind, you end up with being frustrated.
A really bad afternoon.
So you were mentioning preparing for all the different types of decks and different strategies that comes up here. Do you have any strategies that you like to play with?
I love this question. I love playing MathMech. MathMech was the deck that I had first started out playing when I had played Yu-Gi-Oh! There were a collection of Cyverse monsters of differing attributes that correlate to a different symbol in math.
Okay.
So there is a addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. They are also included with a bunch of variables. So there's the nabla variable, the sigma variable, and they also have some of their tuners, which is the nabla, but they also have some geometry. So it's also diameter and circular and stuff like that. Their extra deck monsters are really cool. The Xyz monsters they make are named after mathematicians, being
fancy.
Mathmech Alembertian, Mathmech Laplacian. I think Laplacian was the mathematician that was heavily involved with wave theory, I think.
That's really cool to bring that element in.
It's really cool, right?
Cool. I love that.
They also have a cool boss monster in Mathmech Final Sigma, who is unaffected by other card effects except for Mathmech cards. So that's really cool. They have a really powerful trap card that makes them Xyz during your opponent's turn. So you're able to add cards to make your second turn better or to disrupt your opponent's plays by summoning Laplacian. It's very cool. The Planet Patrols also I love playing. Like I alluded to earlier, they are really, really fun. And also I really enjoy playing TG, which stands for Tech Genus. It's a synchro strategy. you make a lot of big machine guys, and that's about all you do. But yeah, I'm really enjoying those 3 right now. Worth shouting out also is that the deck that I played to a top 17 finish at Greenville, which was Unchained. Unchained is a collection of some main deck monsters, mostly extra deck monsters. That's a lie. There's more main deck than extra deck, but I digress. Who really love being destroyed either by battle or card effect. Yeah.
That's what you were talking about earlier.
Yeah. So if they're destroyed by battle or card effect, they summon a different twin out of the deck. They're called the Unchained Twins. So they can either summon like a big boss monster, or they can summon just like another twin to pop another card, to be able to summon another twin to pop another card.
Destroy me so I can destroy you.
It is pretty much that. The extra deck cards also, when they are destroyed, add a card from the graveyard back to the hand.
Okay.
But the Link 2 that they have, so there's 2 bodies, interacts with your opponent on their turn, and the Link 3 interacts with your opponent on your turn.
Okay.
So you're able to like use their cards to fuel your cards to be able to pop more cards.
Nice.
It's this fun little engine of like
vicious cycle.
Yeah, it's this fun little like step-by-step process that's pretty funny. But yeah, it's about what I'm either known for or currently playing.
Love it because you gotta have a variety. If you're a one-trick pony and they figure out your how you play, you're done.
Yeah,
for it. So
it is extremely rough because there are one tricks. People just love decks enough to be able to play them nonstop, and some decks do just get like consistent support and like different cool little tech cards because like every card is available. So like dragon players. The dragon's been an archetype that has been consistent for the meta for years because there are so many good dragon cards. So like you'll see a dragon like top a regional sometimes, or you'll see like, I played dragons to a 4-0 finish at locals, and like there's like clickbaity YouTube titles and stuff like that. But like it's really easy just to like go to the same locals every week and just, pretty much either prepare really heavily for that deck exclusively because you're going to have to play it at some point. So it's even more detrimental on a local level than in like a regional level to be able to like kit your deck out against exactly what you're playing against. It's brutal.
That is brutal. Now, as you're mentioning with, trying to prepare for playing for all this other decks, other peoples, other styles, how do you personally, when you sit down at a table, how do you read your opponent in order to play better against them?
So there are tells that your opponent can give, right?
Okay.
Your opponent either thinking on certain card activations, because certain hand traps trigger at certain times.
Okay.
So it's pretty easy to be able to go like, with this card, I can check if he has this card or this card in his hand. Because like maybe he'll want to disrupt this. Maybe he'll want to stop me here. How do I play around it if he stops me here? Is this a safe play for me to make to continue my turn? Most of the stuff you have to consider. If he opens, one card, do I just die into the sun? Maybe. More times than not, that is usually it. What cards am I avoiding with certain plays? What cards, especially even on your opponent's turn, if you're looking at them play and like maybe they're thinking really hard on, how they want to start your turn, maybe they're going to have issues with extending. Like if I disrupt them really early, they're going to have really hard troubles to be able to play past that. So depending on what tells your opponent gives you, maybe you want to disrupt them maybe now or later when the deck naturally has a cutoff. Because there is usually a linchpin in every deck. There's just a point where the deck is the most vulnerable, which you want to disrupt. So it is sometimes really easy to find this linchpin. Sometimes it's really not. It's really hard. It's on a deck by deck basis. It's complicated. Yu-Gi-Oh! Shockingly, the card of 12,000 cards is complicated.
Oh, really? Come on.
I know. I'm sorry.
Spoiler alert, everybody. By spoiler alert, I mean bring you back to the end.
Yeah, let's wrap it up now. But yeah, it is extremely complicated. Maybe your opponent is just thinking, I have all this gas in my hand. What do I want to start with? Like, what do I do? Maybe they're going through the same motions you did when you started.
Oh, okay.
So maybe it's just, there's also like a thing of body language too, right? Like maybe they when they look at their hand and stuff, maybe. So I've had players flat out tell me this hand is terrible. This hand is terrible, and I'm like, well,
cha-ching,
maybe
cash that in, or maybe you're lying to me.
Maybe I've had players just flat out lie to me.
Yeah,
so like
part of the game.
It is as psychological as it is mechanical wise. It is astonishingly important to pay attention to what your opponent is thinking on when it's on your turn, based on what disruptions they could have, but also important just to, again, be active with your opponent and be visible and like be polite.
Yeah,
just saying.
Which again goes back to etiquette. Going through
a little bit, wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Now, someone's getting into this.
Yeah,
they're starting new. What are suggestions or recommendations for people who are just now getting into this or wanting to get into it?
So I really, really recommend you try Edison format. Edison format is much simpler. It gets you used to the base mechanics of the game. It plays a lot of really, really iconic cards. Scapegoat, Stardust Dragon, competitive mainstays like Stratos, the Monarchs, Mirror Force, a lot of like these classical cards that I remember from my childhood and always wanted to play. But because of the way the meta formed out when I got into competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! Aren't really viable anymore. Yeah. I also recommend, if you want to play advanced format, find a deck that is cheap.
That $30 deck that you're talking about earlier?
They exist. They exist. And also a deck that interests you personally. Like a new player, I'm not going to look at and say, you know, I wouldn't really play that because it's not the best deck in the room right now. I want to get you interested. I want to get you to have that drive that I have, because the drive is the only way you, like, over a long period of time, still play Yu-Gi-Oh! So it's important to sort of develop this environment where you want to encourage learning, but you also want to encourage fun.
Yeah, you have to have fun, or what's the point of doing it?
What's the point?
Yeah.
But yeah, just find something that interests you, because like these fun little goofy birds on my cards make me happy. Then play the fun little goofy birds. I'm not going to tell you no. Yeah. Just play the fun little. And like maybe if you start getting more and more competitive, we can have those like conversations of, you know, this is the best deck in the room. Maybe another deck choice is right for you.
Yeah.
Or maybe this is more along your axis, or this is being played. How do you feel about that? These are conversations I've had with a bunch of my friends like Logan, like Joey, like Ethan, where I constantly have like, is my deck choice wrong? Maybe not. Maybe your side pattern's wrong. Maybe. Is my deck composition wrong? Maybe. Is this what is commonly being played? Maybe. I really, really recommend getting into Edison. I really, really recommend finding a deck that interests you personally.
Good suggestions.
Yeah.
Love it. Now, we've covered a wide range of topics here. We've gone all over the place, being able to explain here about Yu-Gi-Oh! Are there any things I didn't cover or overlooked kind of a way that you want to throw out there and discuss?
Not really. Sort of getting into the game is hard. That's sort of just a fact, right? But other than just a main learning curve when you first start out, I really like playing the game. I've played it for a lot of years. But yeah, if you are of the people who is maybe more tentative to get into Yu-Gi-Oh! Or like, oh, maybe I just don't have like the space to store like cardboard if I collect it, or like, you know, I have already all these Magic cards. Yeah. Try Master Duel. Master Duel is a pretty harmless way to experience Yu-Gi-Oh! And, you know, you get to play around these fun cards that aren't in any other format. Maxi's in this format. Recently, unbanned cards are in this format. Unique cards to Master Duel in this format. It's a lot of fun, and I do, for the most part, genuinely do recommend it. Master Duel also has a lot of fun tutorials to play. So if you're just starting out, it has a lot of fun tutorials to be able to teach you how to play Yu-Gi-Oh!, how to learn basic concepts of different decks.
Okay.
They go over like national wizarding decks. There's a Monarch little campaign thing you can play. There's like Elemental Lords. There's like Karakuri cards. There's like all these like different, widely differing decks that like either you like the way they play because you played them in the tutorial, or you like the way they just look. It's a good way to experience Yu-Gi-Oh! In a not
preachy sort of stressful environment and just sort of go with the flow as far as like, I want to play Yu-Gi-Oh! I don't have a deck or any idea what to play, and try Master Duel. Genuinely try Master Duel.
Thank you for bringing that up, because that's definitely trying to find that entry point and trying to find that way to be able to learn the game is very important.
It's the best one I've found, because like you try and get people to go in these like online simulators with like Dueling Book or like YGO Omega, and like they just get overwhelmed, and it's a lot. Like it's easier if it's just in a contained, non-stress environment. You're able to talk through it. You're able to let them have an environment that is more comfortable for them to learn the stuff they're going to be playing.
Yeah. And yeah, if you're not happy or you're confused right out of the gate and you can't be able to find your way out, then you're going to quit.
Exactly.
You're going to quit.
Exactly.
Now, do you have any last words of wisdom to be able to provide to the audience?
Don't spend your money on Yu-Gi-Oh! Play Pokemon instead. It's much cheaper.
Oh, man.
Play Magic. The Magic folks are fun. They're cool. Yeah, just don't spend your money on cardboard.
I'm afraid to ask how much money you spent over the years. Could you buy a car with how much?
No.
Okay.
No. I don't like. Well.
Uh-oh.
It's not a zero amount of money. So the way it kind of works out is like main set boxes are $80 a pop.
Yeah.
And I've bought a non-zero amount. So it's like $800. Wow, I hope my mom does not listen to this.
Yeah, she'll probably hear something of it.
Yeah.
Potentially.
And like I've bought decks that are pretty cheap. I don't buy expensive cards.
Yeah.
Not usually. So that's maybe also a combined $800. That's not even true. It's like $400.
That's not bad at all.
No.
That's not bad at all.
Yeah.
I remember spending all kinds of crazy money on my basketball card collection over the years and all this different stuff. Yeah. And I have bowling balls that are like $150, $200 downstairs. And so I'm like, I can't say that. That's actually $400, $800. That's pretty low down.
Like, those are like decks I want to play. And like the boxes are like, maybe stuff got reprints I just kind of want to open a box for, or maybe it was a set that I wanted to try high roll, so maybe I bought more boxes than I was really supposed to. Even starting out, I was like, I want to buy a box because like that's like the best thing to do, right? Wrong.
Yeah.
Buy singles. Buy the card you want to play.
Nice. Smart.
Yeah. Buy singles 100% of the time. Buy singles. They're always cheaper. It's not worth trying to gamble.
You're guaranteed going to get what you want when you're buying that single.
Yes. And it's just going to save you a lot of time and hassle. Yeah, it's... unless, like, there are certain situations where, like, probably opening a sealed set is going to be cheaper, and you'll probably get the cards you want. But again, that's, like, kind of gambling. I'm not going to say to do that. I don't like doing it most of the time. That's about it.
Cool. Now, if someone wanted to reach out to you or learn more about Yu-Gi-Oh! In some range for it and follow your gaming patterns and what you kind of be able to do out there, how could they do it?
So you can always reach out to Hawk's Nest Gaming. It's a card shop in our local area of Woodstock, Georgia. You can find them on Facebook, Instagram, but you find them there. You can always reach out. They have their own also TCG store where you can buy singles from us. You can buy, we do Pokemon singles, Magic the Gathering singles, Yu-Gi-Oh! Singles. Digimon is also really big at the store. There's the new One Piece game. But yeah, if you want to follow me, follow Hawk's Nest Gaming.
Yay! There you go. And also, it helps support you as a player in a whole. As you are sponsor.
100%.
There you go. Now, Aidan, thank you for coming on and sharing this lovely 2-part episode with us and giving all this lovely knowledge to us, because it's always important to be able to learn about all the different things out there. And it's a passion. And I could tell the entire time while we're talking, your face lighting up and just kind of going. And that's why I love doing this.
Yeah.
Because it's not something that I would know right out of the gate or be able to go looking for. And we got connected through other individuals, learning from friends, learning from friends.
It all comes full circle.
It all does. That's how I came up with the name Learning from Friends. It all works out that way. But if you also want to reach out and get some more information from Aidan, you can reach out to me. and I'll kind of like filter through, because you're going to have those crazies. You're going to going to kind of go through. So like I'll filter out as well if you have any questions. Now, to be able to find me, I'm on Facebook, Learning from Friends podcast. I do have a Twitter page. I rarely use it. I usually just to post the episodes on. Maybe I'll get into Instagram. I don't know. Probably not. It's not my thing, but I need to start advertising a little bit more. I need to put myself out there a little bit. And I do have a Patreon page. This is how, if you want to donate to the cause, to be able to keep this free, and because again, I spend hours editing these things. I spend hours sitting here. I like to take my guest out to dinner or something like that, just to kind of like spend for their time that they've kind of come in. I'm not sure where we're going to go eat at yet, Aidan. We'll figure that out here in a little bit.
That'll be all right.
And so yeah, just kind of keeps this thing going here. $1, $10, $100, $1 million, whatever you're feeling comfortable with. Donate away on the Patreon page, which is Learning from Friends podcast. You can be able to do that way. I have a website. I am on all different types of formats. If there's a way to listen to a podcast, I'm probably there. And if you can't get it to play through any of those formats, I do have www.learningfromfriends.com that you can be able to listen to as well, just straight through the website itself, if none of the other formats are working here. I have one request of the listeners here. Please share this with a friend. That is the best way of advertising, is you're giving your stamp of approval. Share it on Facebook, share it, whatever, however you need to do. Go talk to your neighbor, talk to your friend down the street. You know, that's how we spread the lovely knowledge, learning from friends out there. And as we leave today, my name is Cade Curtis, your tour guide, a lovely adventure that I like to call Learning from Friends. And most of all, don't forget, let your curiosity fly high.